Exposed, the heartwarming journey of a lonely cowboy and the amazing woman who changed his life. Jake stood at the edge of the fairgrounds, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows over the laughter and lights. It was the annual community fair, and while families celebrated unity, he only felt the weight of his father's absence pressing on his shoulders. His heart ached, a tightness in his chest. His father, a giant of a man, a veteran, a beloved figure, was gone, and now the family ranch teetered on the brink of collapse. How could he carry on when the ghost of his father loomed so large, an unachievable shadow? As he raised a cold drink to his lips, watching families revel in warmth and joy around him, an overwhelming loneliness washed over him. Dirt under his nails reminded him of the hard work waiting on the ranch, but for the first time that day, he wished to leave it all behind and disappear into his memories. Just as he contemplated slipping away, she arrived, Lucy, freshly returned from the city, like a whirlwind of ambition and glow, a breath of fresh air amid the dusty rodeo life. "Hey there," she said, her voice bright, though he couldn't shake an initial resentment simmering below the surface. The way she carried herself, confident, determined to change the world while he felt anchored to a legacy weighed down by debt and judgment, stirred something within. "You're Jake, right? You run the Jacobs Ranch?" The way she spoke made him bristle. Did she think she knew him because of his name? She had no idea what burdens he was carrying. "Yeah," he muttered, wiping sweat from his brow, anger and confusion bubbling inside him. The townsfolk cast sidelong glances, whispers filtering through the jubilant noise of the fair. Before they could slip into bitterness, the night turned ominous. Just as laughter echoed, a drought struck, threatening their water supply, a crisis that struck at the heart of their beloved Texas. A sense of urgency rushed through Jake. An opportunity, perhaps, to show his worth beyond his father's name. And Lucy, to his surprise, the ambitious outsider, claimed a steadiness he hadn't expected. Together, they dared to face the unexpected challenge, rallying folks around them. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue, but hard work soon overshadowed their unity as rumors began swirling. Lucy was accused of seeking the spotlight while Jake was seen as clinging to old ways. Tension flared, emotions igniting like wildfire as misunderstandings erupted between them. Amid the fair, where laughter should have reigned, Jake and Lucy faced each other, raw with hurt. "Do you even care about this place?" she shouted, frustration woven through her words. "Not all of us can turn our backs and run when things get tough." He snapped, the weight of his father's legacy hanging thick in the air. The fairground lights blinked, hearts shattered and unresolved truths echoing loud. Could they overcome these divisions, or was their story doomed to end in anger? Jake stood there, torn, heart racing against the backdrop of swirling doubts. The flickering lights shone on a future uncertain, as he clutched the remnants of what had become his life, awaiting an answer that could change everything. The air between them felt charged, as if the entire fairground was holding its breath waiting for something to snap. Lucy's eyes shone with unshed tears, the same fierce determination that made her so captivating now revealing a vulnerability he had never seen before. Jake could feel his anger begin to wane, but he held on to it, clinging to the familiar bitterness like a lifeline. "Look, I get it," she said, her voice quieter now, almost pleading. "You're struggling. We all are. But we need to come together. We can't let this drought defeat us." Her words struck a chord, but resentment twisted in his gut. "Easy for you to say, Lucy. You've always had one foot out the door," he retorted. "I'm the one who has been living this every single day. You think a pretty face and big dreams can fix what's broken around here? Stop it." Lucy snapped back, her voice fierce but edged with hurt. "This isn't about me. I'm here to help, whether you want it or not. Jake could see the hope flickering in her eyes and something in him softened. He wanted to believe her, wanted to trust that her passion could blend with his grit to pull them through. It had to if they were to save the ranch and the very essence of their community. As the fair continued around them, the sounds of laughter faded into the backdrop of his thoughts. Maybe you're right, he admitted, surprising even himself. Maybe I've fought too hard alone. The admission was raw, but it felt cleansing. Lucy's expression shifted, a mix of surprise and encouragement washing over her face. Then let us work together. We can organize a fundraiser, spread the word. We have resources in the community that can help if we just call on them. It's time to show everyone that this ranch means something. A glimmer of hope ignited within him. Could they really rally the townsfolk? Yet even as he began to consider it, the heaviness of his father's shadow loomed larger. Would he be seen as weak for needing help? Wasn't he asking for support the same as admitting defeat? Fine, he ground out, though the wariness lingered. But if we're going to do this together, you need to understand the stakes. This isn't just a project for me. It's my father's legacy. And if we fail then we won't fail. She interjected with conviction. We'll fight for it together. The crowd around them buzzed on, oblivious to the stakes of their faces, their hearts racing in different directions. But for Jake, that moment felt like a crossroads. He could cling to the familiar darkness of despair, or he could take a leap of faith into the unknown light she offered. The tension between them shifted, no longer an unmovable wall, but a bridge. Just as their resolve solidified, a voice cut through the ambience, echoing in the air like a sudden gust of wind. Did you hear? They're planning to sell the old town hall. No more community gatherings, and if that happens, the ranch is as good as gone. A wave of panic stirred within Jake. The town hall wasn't just a building, it was where they all came together. Without it, everything they were trying to build for their future, for their families would collapse. That he looked at Lucy, their earlier quarrels forgotten in the urgency of a shared mission. We need a plan. We can't just stand by. As they moved into action, something shifted in Jake's heart, a willingness to connect, to trust, and perhaps even to let a piece of his father's legacy live on through collective strength. Yet just as hope began to swell, another worry crept in. Was he truly ready to risk his heart to this captivating woman whose very presence threatened to unravel everything he thought he knew? One path seemed clear, but the road was riddled with uncertainties. What would become of him if he allowed Lucy into his heart and home? With thoughts racing and feet taking steps toward an uncertain future, the festival buzz thrummed in the background, but in their hearts, a different kind of symphony was playing, one of collaboration, hope, and the faintest hint of love waiting just around the corner. But as Jake took the first steps towards that new beginning, a shadow behind him stirred with secrets that could pull them apart. Jake's heart raced as he processed the unsettling news about the town hall. The laughter and chatter of the fairground faded into a distant hum, replaced by the urgency of the moment. Lucy's hand found his arm, grounding him. He could feel the warmth radiating from her touch, and for the first time in a long while, it gave him strength. Let us gather everyone. We can't let this happen, she urged, her eyes bright with determination. We need to show the town we care. People respond to passion. He nodded, feeling the flicker of hope begin to grow amidst his doubts. But as they hurried away from the game stalls and cotton candy stands, a wave of anxiety washed over him. How could he stand up and fight when there were so many unanswered questions? He had spent years preparing for disappointment, not for rallying support. Where do we start? He asked, forcing the words out despite the knot in his stomach. I think we should start with the farmers. They've felt the drought too. They know how much the town hall means to them and everyone else, she replied, her voice steady. Then we can reach out to the artists and local businesses. Everyone has something to gain from keeping this place alive. Jake liked the sound of her plan. It was simple and straightforward, just like what he had always believed in. But time was of the essence. If they didn't move quickly, he feared the town hall might slip from their fingers. As they made their way through the crowd, a buzz of anticipation crackled in the air. Conversations drifted around them, people discussing their struggles, their dreams, yet still searching for that elusive spark of hope. He could almost feel their collective heartbeat, yearning for a lifeline. They arrived at the first farm, its sun-bleached gates welcoming them like old friends. The owner, a burly man named Hank, met them with a frown, wiping the sweat from his brow. "What brings you two here?" "Town Hall's in trouble," Lucy said, her voice unwavering. "We need to fight to keep it for our community. We want to launch a fundraiser to rally support, but we need your help." Hank looked at them, his brow furrowing deeper. "You think we have time for fundraisers? We're just trying to keep our heads above water as it is." "Exactly," Jake interjected, his voice low but firm. "But if the town hall goes, where will we hold our meetings? Where will we support each other? We need to come together for everyone's sake." The weight of his words hung in the air. Hank glanced between them, slowly processing the urgency. "All right, what do you need from me?" As they spoke more, Jake felt a shift of warmth in Hank's eyes as the man began to consider the possibilities. They talked about contacting other farmers, arranging a community meeting for everyone to come together and share their stories. With each word shared, Jake felt that burden in his chest lift, replaced by the energy of collaboration. After leaving the farm, excitement rippled through him. Maybe they could do this. Maybe they could weave their dreams together, creating a tapestry of hope that could envelop their community. As they walked side by side, his heart dared to beat a little faster, the space between them slowly closing in a way that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Yet, just as the sense of accomplishment surged in him, Jake caught a glimpse of a figure in the distance. It was Ethan, the rival rancher whose family had long feuded with his. The flutter of nerves returned to his stomach. What if Ethan was here to spoil their plans? What now? Lucy whispered, breaking his focus on the figure. "Just stick close," he replied, trying to find his voice as Ethan approached, a smirk on his face. "I don't like the look on his face." Ethan raised an eyebrow, leaning casually against a fence. "Looks like you two are up to something big. Planning a little fairy tale fundraiser, are we?" Jake felt a bristle of anger rising up in him, but he forced it down. He couldn't let distractions or rivalries derail them now. Not when everything was at stake. As the evening light dimmed and a chill settled in, Jake wondered how far they would have to go to truly unite the town. Could they stand against someone like Ethan, who thrived on division? Would they have the support of the community he so dearly wanted to protect? The clock was ticking, and the shadows of doubt were creeping in again. Just as Jake took a breath to reply to Ethan, thinking of how to defuse the situation, he felt a pressure in his heart. Would he rise to the challenge, or were the fears of his past too strong to overcome? The stakes were high, and they were only just beginning. The real fight was only starting, and he could already feel the echoes of the challenge ahead. Would he have the courage to face it head-on? Could he protect not just the ranch but the future he and Lucy had started to dream about? The path lay before them, fraught with tension and uncertain alliances. But beneath it all was a glimmer of hope, the kind that promised light, even in the darkest of nights. Jake squared his shoulders, meeting Ethan's gaze head-on. "Yeah, we are. We're rallying for our community, not tearing it apart like some people." Ethan's smirk widened, amusement flickering in his blue eyes. "Is that so? You really think a couple of fundraisers and some hopeful chatter will change anything?" His voice dripped with mockery. "You're just setting yourselves up for disappointment." Lucy stepped forward, her confidence radiating as she faced Ethan. "The town wants to unite. We don't need to play by your rules. You've spent too long dividing us. This town deserves better." For a moment, there was only silence, the tension thick enough to slice through. Jake could hear the muffled sounds of laughter from the fairground behind them, a stark contrast to the heaviness in the air. He felt unsteady, uncertain. They were standing by the fence, and it seemed as if the world around them had faded away. Ethan looked at Lucy, and Jake held his breath, waiting for some sort of reaction. Then the rival rancher's expression changed. It was subtle, but Jake could sense the shift. "So what's your plan, then? You think the farmers and the businesses will back you up? What if they don't? You might end up worse off than you are now." Jake clenched his fists, grounding himself. This was the moment. He had to stand tall, to rise above the doubts both within himself and from outside forces. That's a risk we're willing to take. We're not asking for your approval, Ethan. We're asking for the community's help. Ethan's posture relaxed just a fraction, surprise flickering behind his smugness. "You really think you can win them over? Good luck with that." He pushed away from the fence, brushing off his shirt as if they were nothing more than a nuisance. "But just remember, if this doesn't go your way, I'll be there to remind you of it." As he walked away, Jake could feel the weight of his words trailing behind him. But then Lucy turned to him, her determination unwavering. It sparked something inside him, something fierce. He wasn't going to let Ethan's dark words shatter the hope that had ignited during their earlier conversation. "Let us keep going," Lucy said, her voice low but fierce with conviction. "We can't back down now." As they ventured toward the downtown area, the bustling fairground glowed in soft yellow lights. Each step they took started to feel lighter, as if the doubt had begun to dissolve into a slurry of purpose and action. Jake admired Lucy's tenacity. She was always so ready to fight for what she believed in. "You really think we can pull this off?" "I know we can," she replied, a bright smile lighting up her face. "If we can get people to really connect with the importance of the town hall, they'll understand. But we can't rush it. We need heartfelt stories from everyone." Fire ignited in Jake's chest. It was their mission now, one they both believed in. Traveling from house to house in the next few days would help him gather the voices within their town, and he was determined to transform it into a chorus of support. A few blocks later, they hesitated before a small building, stark against the twilight backdrop. It was the local diner, the heart of town gossip and connections. "Let's start here," Lucy suggested. "Everyone comes here. If we can get people talking, we'll be one step closer." Inside, the chatter mixed with the clinking of dishes, the scent of fresh coffee hung in the air. Jake felt an electric buzz around them as they entered. He scanned the crowd, mentally preparing for the challenge ahead, but just then, as they walked deeper into the diner, he spotted someone familiar, Sarah, a local artist whose murals adorned nearly every corner of town. She was seated with her sketchbook, laughing with friends, her fiery red hair catching the light. Jake's heart fluttered. She cared deeply about the town, and if they could win her support, it could tip the scales in their favor. He wasn't sure how she felt about him, but he had to try. "Come on," he nudged Lucy toward Sarah, determination surging in him. "If we convince her, we can gather the artists to support our cause." As they approached, Jake found himself breathing a little faster. Would she be receptive? Would she feel the urgency that he and Lucy did? But before he could reach her, the moment slipped through his fingers. A loud crash echoed from the front of the diner. A pan had fallen, and everyone turned their attention to the commotion, laughter fading into surprise. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. Jake's heart sank. Would this distract from what they were trying to do? With uncertainty creeping back, he glanced at Lucy, searching for her strength. In her eyes, he recognized determination, but beneath it was a hint of worry. The urgency of the moment lingered in the air. Could they overcome the distraction, and would Sarah align herself with their cause? Their next steps loomed large, tangled in possibility and awareness of the stakes at hand. As the voices inside the diner began to rise again, Jake grasped Lucy's hand, squeezing it tight. The fight forward felt as daunting as it was brave. What if this was just the beginning of so many challenges? Would their hope withstand the chaos around them? Jake took a deep breath, readying himself for whatever lay ahead. The battle for their community was just beginning, and who knew what other surprises awaited them. The crash resonated in Jake's ears, its echo lingering long after the sound faded. The diner's chatter surged like a wave, laughter and clinking cutlery mixing with whispers of concern. Jake's heart raced as he pulled away slightly from Lucy, but her grip on his hand was reassuring. They stepped into the bustling room, moving towards Sarah with purpose. "Stay focused," Lucy murmured, her eyes locking onto his as if to anchor him. Jake nodded, even as uncertainty fluttered in his chest. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Will she even want to help? As they neared Sarah's table, he caught snippets of her conversation, a humorous exchange about brush strokes with her friends. It felt so normal, so detached from the urgency they were thrust into. And yet, amid the laughter, there was something comforting about watching her, an oasis of creativity and passion amid the chaos. But just then, another loud thump came from the kitchen. This one was louder, more jarring. The diners fell silent for a split second, and Jake felt the atmosphere tense again, the air growing thick with anticipation. "What is going on back there?" Sarah's friend asked, glancing nervously toward the kitchen. Jake cleared his throat, glancing at Lucy before gathering his courage. "Hey, Sarah," he called, forcing a smile onto his face despite the chill that rushed through him. She looked up, her bright eyes locking with his. "Jake." "Lucy. Everything okay?" "Yeah. We were just hoping to talk with you for a minute," he said, his voice more confident than he felt. With an encouraging nod from Lucy, they pulled up chairs next to her table. Sarah brushed a strand of hair away from her face, setting down her sketchbook with genuine interest. "What's up?" "We're trying to rally support for the town, get people involved in the town hall meeting. We could really use your voice." Jake blurted the words out, and immediately, doubt crept in. Had he put too much pressure on her? Sarah's expression softened. "That sounds amazing. But how do you plan on drawing people in?" Lucy leaned forward, her enthusiasm radiating. "We want to highlight stories, connect hearts. If we can get everyone to share their experiences, I think we can genuinely unite everyone." Jake watched Sarah closely, searching her gaze for any hint of uncertainty. Instead, there was something twinkling back at him, curiosity, maybe even excitement. "I love that idea," Sarah said, her cheeks flushing with warmth. "Storytelling is such a powerful tool. People don't just want to hear facts, they want to feel something." Relief washed over Jake. "Exactly. We were hoping you could help us reach out to other artists. Your murals bring so much spirit to the town. If you could help make that connection." His words trailed off as he envisioned Sarah leading the charge. "Are you kidding?" Sarah responded, grinning. "I'd be honored. I know plenty of musicians and writers who would jump on board. Let's paint a picture of our town that brings everyone together." Just as hope surged within Jake like a live wire, another crash echoed from the kitchen. This time, an elderly waitress stumbled backward, nearly dropping a tray piled high with dishes. Gasps filled the diner, and Jake instinctively jumped to his feet, heart pounding. "Are you okay?" he shouted toward the waitress, who was now struggling to regain her footing. Sarah shot him a worried look, clearly concerned about the distraction they were dealing with. "Should we help her?" Before he could respond, the mood around them shifted again. People began to chatter, some rushing to assist the waitress while others simply sat back, sipping their coffee and returning to their conversations. Jake turned to Lucy and Sarah, feeling a swirl of emotion rising within him. "We need to keep that energy, not get swept away by chaos. It's our moment, right here." And then it clicked for him what they needed to do. Let's gather stories right here in the diner. Ask people their thoughts and experiences. With their voices, we'll build something unstoppable. Lucy's eyes lit up, and Sarah nodded eagerly. It was a spark, a renewed momentum that felt almost electric. But just as they were about to put their plan into action, they heard a sudden commotion outside, the crack of footsteps approaching rapidly. Jake's heart sank again. What now? He exchanged glances with Lucy and Sarah. There was a mix of excitement and dread hanging in the air, each beat racing towards something unknown. "Do you think it's Lucy?" began, but her voice trailed off, uncertainty creeping in again. As the door swung open violently, it was like time paused, the entire diner holding its breath. Jake felt that familiar tension lock into place. What was about to spill into their carefully crafted moment? And in that exact moment, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much bigger storm. Would they be able to harness whatever came next, or would it push them further apart? Jake, Lucy, and Sarah stood at a turning point. Ready or not, the next chapter of their fight was about to unfold, and the stakes felt higher than ever. What awaited them could change everything. Jake's heart raced as the door swung wide open, flinging a gust of cold air into the diner. People turned to see what was coming in, eyebrows raised and murmurs rippling through the crowd. Jake's stomach twisted at the uncertainty of it all. A figure stepped through, tall and weathered, wearing a jacket that looked like it had seen better days. His face was haggard, eyes darting from table to table. It was Billy, the town's handyman, someone everyone knew but few engaged deeply with. He rarely ventured into the diner, preferring to keep his distance, but today he looked frantic. "Billy?" Sarah called, her voice cutting through the chatter. He looked at her, relief washing over his features. I need your help." The urgency in his tone echoed like an alarm. "What happened?" Jake took a step forward, instinctively ready to support whatever he had to say. "Out by the old mill, there's a fire." Billy's breath was ragged, and with each word, the room fell into a deeper stillness. "It started from the back, I don't know how. But it's spreading fast." The gravity of his words sank like a stone in Jake's chest. He exchanged glances with Lucy and Sarah, the excitement of their earlier conversation evaporating in an instant. "How many people are there?" he asked, trying to grasp the full weight of the situation. "I don't know. But we can't just sit here. If we don't get the word out," Billy's voice cracked, revealing the fear beneath his sturdy exterior. Jake knew the mill had been a refuge for some, a gathering spot for others. Lucy squeezed his hand tighter, grounding him. "Okay, what do we do?" Billy looked at the crowd in the diner, their expressions shifting from confusion to concern. "We need to spread the word, get people to the mill, bring water, whatever we can do. And fast." Jake's mind raced. "We can organize a group. If people here think they can help, they will rush to it. But first, we need to make a plan." With every passing second, he sensed the urgency weighing heavier on his shoulders. He turned to the diner patrons, his voice steady and commanding. "Listen up. There's a fire at the old mill, and we need every hand to help. If anyone can bring water, fire extinguishers, or whatsoever is possible, let us move." The din of discussions began to rise again, voices overlapping with sudden energy. He watched as a couple of young men immediately jumped from their seats, rallying their friends. The determination was contagious, igniting a fire within him that he didn't know he had. "Sarah, you and Lucy can gather supplies, right?" he pushed, trying to delegate. "Absolutely," Sarah nodded, the spark of their earlier passion rekindling now into something fiercer. "I'll head with some others to the mill to assess the situation. We can't let it get out of control." His heart drummed louder as each plan formed in the midst of chaos. The diner that just moments before exuded an air of lightness and hope now transformed into a rapid response center, bustling with purpose. Just then, as they were about to rush out, an elderly lady who had been quietly sipping her coffee stepped forward, her voice quaking. "My husband, he's over there. He went to get tools, he doesn't know it caught fire." A chill coursed through Jake. This was at the moment to step beyond fear, to embrace the community that so often felt fractured. "Let us go get him," he declared, determination infusing his voice. He felt his entire being focused on what mattered most now. Every face in the diner mirrored his resolve. They didn't just need to help put out flames, they needed to bind together, become a lifeline for one another. As they flooded out of the diner, adrenaline surged through Jake. He took a last breath of the cool air, steeling himself for whatever challenges lay ahead. But then, amidst the chaos and haste, he caught sight of Lucy. She looked scared, but there was something else in her gaze's strength. He suddenly feared for her safety, caught in the storm of action about to unfold. Would they rescue the ones in peril? Would the fire ignite not only fear but also a stronger bond between them all? The unexpected chaos demanded they become more than just individuals in a diner. It pushed them to unite as a community. Questions burned in Jake's mind as they set out. Would they find the people they cared about? And how would this fire change everything when the smoke cleared? Jake bolted from the diner, his heart racing as he joined the growing crowd. The sound of feet pounding the pavement echoed against the backdrop of urgency and fear. Each face was lit by a mix of determination and anxiety, and Jake felt a surge of purpose coursing through him. The impending blaze at the old mill loomed like a dark cloud over them, but together, they could fight it. Ahead, Billy was shouting instructions, gathering volunteers like a general rallying his troops. "We need buckets. Water. Anyone with a car, grab your hoses or anything you can carry." Billy's voice traveled over the chatter, steady in its command. Jake could see hands shooting up, some offering to run home for supplies, others racing toward their vehicles. Lucy's grip remained firm on Jake's arm, a silent reminder that they were in this together. "I'll run to the supply store, they always have tons of hoses and fire extinguishers in stock," she said, her voice laced with urgency. Jake nodded, feeling a swell of pride. "Be careful. Meet at the mill," he replied, forcing a smile to alleviate the tension. Watching her sprint off, he felt a pang of worry, but he squashed it down. They couldn't let fear control them now. "Jake, you're with us." A voice called Ryan, one of the younger guys from town, waved Jake over to his group. "We'll get there first and see what we're dealing with." Without hesitation, Jake sprinted toward them, his mind flooded with images of the mill. He thought of the laughter that had echoed through its halls and the stories shared there. Would it still be standing when they arrived? As they hurried, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that flames wouldn't be the only thing they'd be battling. The air felt thick, charged with emotion. They were stepping into the unknown, a space that could either shatter them or forge unbreakable bonds. When they reached the mill, the sight was chaotic and horrifying. Smoke billowed into the sky, dark and ominous. The fire crackled, hungry, licking greedily at the wooden structures. Billy stood at the front, directing people to form a line with buckets, overwhelming them with a sense of responsibility. "Water's coming. Pour it here," he shouted, and they quickly fell into rhythm, passing buckets back and forth, using their shared strength. The heat was oppressive, wrapping around Jake like a heavy blanket. But each time he tossed his bucket toward the flames, he felt a flicker of hope. They were fighting back. The noise of the fire filled the air, but it was met with the solidarity of their community, each voice strained and determined. Then Jake heard a scream. It cut through the chaos like a knife. "My father!" Jake turned, his blood running cold. A woman stood at the edge of the crowd, panic-stricken, desperately searching through the throng. He was working inside. Without thinking, Jake dashed towards the door of the mill. Behind him, he could hear Ryan's voice yelling for him to stop, for it wasn't safe. But something pulled him forward. Every second counted. He ducked inside, the heat intensifying. Through the smoke, he could barely see. He called out, "Is anyone there?" The acrid air stung his eyes, and hesitation crept in. What if he couldn't find him? What if he was too late? But then, he spotted a figure slumped near a workbench, coughing and struggling against the smoke. "Hold on. I'm coming!" Jake yelled, adrenaline surging. As he approached the man, he could see the familiar face, and his heart dropped into his stomach. It was the woman's father, struggling to rise. "Help me," he wheezed, Jake reached down, grabbing him under the arms, pulling him up. The flames danced around them, and every instinct screamed at him to get out fast. But he wasn't about to let anyone down. With every ounce of strength, he hauled the man toward the exit, the weight of their lives pressing against him with each step. Just as they reached the doorway, the rafters groaned above them, and Jake's heart dropped. Would they make it out alive? Would anyone else be trapped in the chaos? Outside, the community remained engaged, united. By the flames but also by their resolve. Jake's breath came heavy, the weight of what lay ahead hanging in the balance. As he stepped into the air, he could feel the weight of another responsibility settling on his shoulders. In the midst of the fire, he had found purpose, but at what cost? The moment lingered in his mind as he turned back to the mill, flames raging and smoke billowing. They weren't just fighting fire, they were fighting for each other. And that was only the beginning. Jake stumbled out of the mill, dragging the man behind him. The sudden rush of fresh air hit him like a wave, followed by the cries of the crowd. The woman rushed forward, her eyes wide with fear and desperation. As he set her father down, she collapsed beside him, her hands trembling. "Dad!" she cried, relief flooding her voice as she grasped his shoulders. Jake stepped back, breathless and shaken, heart pounding in his chest. The fire raged behind him, but it felt distant now, an ominous presence that wouldn't he let go. He glanced up at the mill, its silhouette warped by smoke, and felt an ache settle deep in his gut. They had saved one, but how many more were still in danger? Billy was still shouting orders. "We need more water. Keep it moving." His determination was infectious, inspiring the rest of the town to keep fighting. Jake couldn't help but feel propelled by it, too. "Jake! We need you back!" Ryan yelled, his voice snapping Jake from his thoughts. They were forming a human chain, buckets flying as they worked to douse the flames. Without a second thought, Jake joined in, taking what felt like a deep breath of purpose. Each bucket thrown was a step toward saving their home, a collective heartbeat pulsing with the rhythm of unity. The heat bore down on him, but Jake pressed on, adrenaline pushing aside fatigue. Every face around him showed grit and resolve. They were all in this together. Suddenly, Billy shouted again, his expression shifting from focused to alarmed. "Everyone! Get back! The roof! It's going to collapse!" Jake looked up just as the sound of cracking wood echoed like thunder. Panic surged through his body, and he ran to the edge of the crowd, shouting for everyone to retreat. The chaos reeled back momentarily, people scattering away from the mill like windblown leaves. He felt a tug, a flash of uncertainty, but he forced himself to stay strong, to be brave. He spotted Lucy emerging from the crowd, her arms laden with hoses and extinguishers. "Jake! Are you okay?" she yelled, her face flushed, eyes searching. Relief washed over him at the sight of her. "I'm fine. But we need to get everyone back." Jake shouted in return, gesturing as he backed away. They locked eyes, and for a heartbeat, everything else faded: the fire, the smoke, the chaos. All that remained was a connection, a promise to each other that they'd get through this. Then, without warning, the roof buckled. Dust and debris fell, and the crowd erupted again, screams piercing the air. There were still people working inside. Jake's heart lurched. He could see shadows moving through the smoke. They were trapped. "Billy! We can't leave them." Jake surged forward, but Ryan caught his arm. "You can't go back in there. It's too dangerous." But Jake wasn't listening. He felt an overwhelming urge to help, to save as many as he could. He broke free of Ryan's grip, shouting as he sprinted toward the door again. The heat swallowed him whole. Each breath became a battle, yet he plowed through the smoke, determined to find those who still needed him. "Where are you?" he shouted into the thick haze, panic threading through his chest. The flames' roar washed over him, blurring his thoughts. Deep down, he knew the danger, knew he shouldn't be there, but the thought of leaving someone behind was unbearable. Then, he heard a faint voice, almost lost beneath the crackle of the blaze. "Help! Over here!" Jake's heart raced with urgency. He fought his way toward the sound, focusing only on the flicker of hope it brought. Each step felt like wading through molasses, but he wouldn't stop. They needed him. Would he reach them in time? Or would the fire take not just the mill, but the lives of those still inside? As he pushed through the smoke, the answer hung over him like an impending storm. Jake couldn't shy away. He would face whatever came next, but would he be too late? Jake fought through the swirling smoke, his lungs burning with each labored breath. The voice echoed again, a lifeline in the chaos, pulling him closer. He couldn't slow down, every second felt like a weight on his conscience. "Help!" The voice desperate, trembling seemed to shift direction with gusts of heat and smoke, but Jake was resolute. He pressed on, heart racing against the invisible danger surrounding him. He stumbled forward, nearly losing his footing amid the debris. Ghostly silhouettes flickered in the haze, but he couldn't make out any features. Each frantic heartbeat echoed the uncertainty that consumed him. Would he collapse too? Would he fall victim to the same flames he was trying to overcome? "Stay calm. I'm coming," he called out, his voice stronger than the fear gnawing at him. Suddenly, he caught sight of a figure huddled near a large machine. It was a young man, his face smeared with soot, panic in his wide eyes. Jake sprinted toward him, almost slipping on a patch of water pooling beneath. "Your way out is behind you. Come on!" Jake shouted, grasping the man's arm. The young man shook his head, fear freezing him in place. I can't. My friend is still in there." Jake's gut twisted. He glanced back, weighing the risk. He could run out with this man and leave the other behind, or he could dive deeper, risking it all. "What's his name? Where is he?" "Mark. He's right in the storage area." The man's voice trembled, desperation in every word. "Let us go," Jake urged, leading the way, hunger for survival igniting his every step. Together, they moved through the haze, guided only by determination and the faintest sound of hope. As they approached the storage area, the roar of flames intensified. Jake's resolve steeled. "We'll get him. Just stay close." The heat prickled his skin as he pressed deeper into the heart of the inferno. Shadows danced wildly around him, but he kept his focus ahead. The shouts from the crowd outside faded into a dull roar, yet one thing remained clear: he was in the midst of a fight far bigger than himself. The blistering heat and thick smoke were mere challenges he had to conquer to save a life. "Mark! Where are you?" he yelled, hoping his voice would penetrate the chaos. There was only silence in response, heavy and suffocating. The young man beside him cried out, "Mark! Answer me!" Panic seeped into his voice, and Jake felt the weight of the urgency. They pressed onward until they reached a darkened threshold. "Mark!" Jake called again, a blend of fear and bravery pushing him as he stepped through. Just as he entered, a beam above them creaked ominously. "We have to hurry." But suddenly, something shifted. The wooden structure groaned, and Jake's heart dropped. He turned back, but the way they had come was now blocked by a shower of flames. "No, no, no!" The young man gasped, eyes wide as the fire encroached. "What do we do?" Jake swallowed hard. His mind raced, searching for a solution that felt impossible. They were trapped, with nowhere to go but deeper into the heart of the fire. "Mark!" The cry hung in the air, mixing with the suffocating smoke. Would he find him? Would they all make it out alive? In that moment, Jake felt his own fear biting at his resolve. Here they were, ready to face the flames, but a reality loomed large. Maybe not everyone would come out of this. And yet, he pushed down his doubts, focusing instead on the flicker of hope that lay ahead. "Stay behind me. We'll find Mark," he commanded, stepping forward into the smoky abyss. Just then, he heard a faint shout from the far side, barely audible over the crackle and roar. Stronger, clearer, it surged through the haze like a bright beacon. Help! Over here! The urgency of it sent a jolt through him. Could they make it? It felt like a precipice teetering on the edge of hope and despair. The next steps would determine it all. Would they rescue Mark in time? Or would they be lost in the depths of the fire? Jake took a deep breath, determination flooding his veins, forging ahead. The flames crackled around him, urging his heart into a relentless beat. Just beyond the darkness, Jake spotted movement. A figure there. He lunged toward it, pulling the young man beside him along. "Mark!" he shouted against the smoke. As they drew closer, a silhouette emerged, coughing and gasping, disoriented. The fire roared behind them, a fierce beast hungry for destruction. "Mark!" Jake's voice broke through the haze, and the form stumbled forward, relief mixing with fear. "I'm here. I can't see." Mark rasped, panic in his eyes. "Where's the way out?" With their hearts racing, Jake took the lead, urgency pulsing through his every vein. "This way. We're getting you out." They forged ahead, encouraging each other, urging Mark to follow. The heat was overwhelming, wrapping around them like a tight embrace, and the smoke thickened, making each breath a battle. With each step, Jake felt the weight of desperation pushing him forward, igniting his spirit. "Keep moving!" he yelled back, steeling himself against the oppressiveness of the flames. They had to make it out. Not just for Mark, but for everyone who had borne witness to this catastrophe. But then bang! A beam crashed down somewhere behind them, sending a shower of splinters through the space. The wall of flames flared, a warning shot across the bow of survival. The young man beside Jake faltered, fear flooding his features. "I can't do this." "Yes, you can." Jake urged, grounding himself in courage. "Stay with me. Breathe." As they plunged deeper into the thick air, the world blurred around them. The fire hummed a dark lullaby, begging them to succumb to chaos, but Jake pushed back, refusing to yield. Suddenly, Mark cried out, "This way." He pointed towards an opening framed by shadows amid the turmoil. Hope surged as they bolted towards it, hearts pounding in a symphony of survival. "Don't stop." They urged one another, and the fire raged around them, but with newfound determination, they barreled forward through the chaos. Jake reached the archway first, and, pulling Mark along, he dove into the light and fresh air that awaited just beyond the inferno. They stumbled out, gasping, lungs aching, bodies slick with smoke and sweat but alive. "Over here." A voice called, and they turned to see others from the town running toward them. Relief washed over Jake's entire being as they rushed to help, guiding Mark away from the blaze. Just then, the structure behind them creaked ominously again. "Get back!" someone shouted, as the roof began to crumble. Jake's heart pounded fiercely, but he couldn't turn away. He searched for Lucy in the crowd, frantically scanning faces. "Lucy!" he shouted, but the chaos gripped him, gripping tighter as uncertainty washed over him. Would she make it out? The weight of every face, every life they sought to protect pressed on him, urging him forward. Billy and townsfolk wielded hoses, forming lines to douse flames, strengthening the bonds of community with one purposeful act after another. As smoke billowed, Jake felt a surge of adrenaline mix with hope. Then there. He spotted Lucy racing through the crowd, her eyes wild but alight with determination. "Jake!" she called, relief etched on her features as they locked eyes. "Thank God!" he gasped, relief flooding him as she ducked around people. "Are you okay?" "Yes. I got hoses. They were at the supply store." She gestured enthusiastically, urgency lacing her words. "We need to help the others. Get more buckets." They moved in sync, rising above the chaos around them, proving that even in the face of destruction, unity could pull them through the darkest moments. With steady breaths, they joined hands with their community, forming chains of strength that seemed unbreakable. As they worked together, passing buckets, guiding the frightened to safety, unshed tears of hope glistened in Jake's eyes. They weren't just erasing flames, they were building something stronger, forging bonds between hearts and souls. The crowd rallied around him, reinforced by urgency and care, and he caught glimpses of familiar faces: Sarah, smiling through fatigue, Hank, urging others forward, and the townsfolk, no longer separated by differences but woven together by the very fabric of their shared love. Suddenly, a voice emerged from nearby, frantic yet fierce. "We need water. Grab what you can." Jake nodded in fierce solidarity, moving toward every call, feeling the unity bolster him. There was still danger lurking, but they faced it together, and that made all the difference. As the last of the flames flickered out, Jake stepped back, breathless, heart full. They had faced catastrophe, but together, they had conquered darkness, and the bond that forged them remained steadfast. In the aftermath of chaos, amid smoke, fear, and uncertainty, Jake found the truest meaning of community. They were family. They were hope. And there, standing together as the sun began to set behind the charred remnants of the mill, they knew they could rise from the ashes, renewed and strong. But more importantly, they had discovered resilience, warmth, and love, woven into the heart of their town. As he took Lucy's hand, their fingers entwined, they both smiled, knowing the fight for the town hall, for their family legacy, and for each other was far from over. But whatever came next, they would face it together. Now, folks, this is where you step in. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you like never before. Leave a like right this second to feed the algorithm and help spread this journey of transformation even further. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about how our community-linked story like Jake and Lucy's has touched your heart. Your voice matters. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this empowering message. Don't wait not even one more second. Only true fans understand how crucial your support is in keeping this dream alive.